My wife was cheating on me when she suffered a heart attack. I rushed to the hospital thinking I'd lose my wife, only to discover she'd been lying to me all along. Hello, Reddit I plus here. It has been almost a year, and I still can't walk past the emergency entrance at our local hospital without feeling sick. I never imagined that one phone call would destroy my marriage, cost me one of my oldest friendships, and make me question every memory from the last 9 years. I honestly don't know if I'm looking for advice, forgiveness, or just somewhere to finally say this out loud. I'm a 37-year-old man. My wife Naomi is 35. We'd been married for 8 years and have a 6-year-old daughter together. From the outside, our life looked boring in the best possible way. We both worked full-time, we had a mortgage, a dog that chewed everything, and argued over whose turn it was to unload the dishwasher. Nothing exciting, nothing dramatic. At least that's what I believed. One Tuesday afternoon, I was sitting in my office finishing paperwork when my phone rang. A woman introduced herself as a nurse. She asked if I was Naomi's husband. The second I answered yes, she told me my wife had suffered a major heart attack and was being rushed into emergency surgery. Everything after that became a blur. I don't even remember driving. I only remember running through the hospital doors with my heart pounding so hard I thought I was the one about to collapse. When I reached the surgical floor, they were already wheeling her into the operating room. I barely caught a glimpse of her face. Then I saw someone else. Gavin. He had been one of my closest friends since college. We'd gone fishing together. He'd stood beside me at my wedding. He'd been to countless family barbecues. Now he was standing outside the operating room looking like he'd seen a ghost. His shirt was wrinkled, his hands were shaking. There was lipstick smeared near his collar. At the time, I didn't notice it. I noticed his terrified expression. Before I could even reach him, one of the nurses quietly pulled me aside. She asked how I knew him. I told her he was practically family. Her face immediately changed. She explained they had called the police as a precaution because my wife had been found unconscious, partially undressed, inside a private residence. Given the circumstances, hospital staff couldn't rule out the possibility of sexual assault. My stomach dropped. I turned toward Gavin. "What the hell did you do to her?" He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. That silence convinced me he was guilty. I completely lost control. I screamed at him in the middle of the hallway. I called him every name I could think of. Security had to separate us. When the police arrived, they interviewed him first. Then they questioned me. I told them everything. Or rather, everything I believed. I described him as someone who must have taken advantage of my unconscious wife. I practically begged them to arrest him. The detectives listened carefully. They thanked me. Then they walked away. No handcuffs, no arrest, nothing. I couldn't understand it. For the next several hours, I sat outside the operating room praying my wife would survive. Nothing else mattered. Not the police. Not Gavin. Not anything. Just her. Late that night, the surgeon finally came out. She had survived. The surgery had gone well. I've never cried harder in my life. When I was finally allowed into recovery, Naomi looked impossibly small lying in that hospital bed. Machines surrounded her. Tubes ran everywhere. I held her hand and listened to the monitor beep. Every heartbeat felt like a miracle. When she finally opened her eyes hours later, she looked confused, scared, barely awake. I leaned close and whispered that everything would be okay, that none of this was her fault, that she just needed to focus on getting better. She squeezed my hand. I cried again. The police interviewed her the following day. They asked me to wait outside. The interview lasted almost 40 minutes. When the detective finally left, Naomi wouldn't look at me. Her eyes were bloodshot. She looked ashamed. I assumed she was traumatized. I wanted to ask what happened. Instead, I hugged her. When we were discharged a few days later, the cardiologist warned us that stress could trigger another cardiac event during recovery. That warning stayed with me. I decided I wouldn't ask difficult questions until she was healthy again. Weeks passed. But one thing kept eating at me. Why wasn't Gavin in jail? I eventually drove to the police station demanding answers. The detective simply said they had found no evidence of a crime, no further comment, no explanation. Privacy laws prevented them from discussing my wife's statement. I left furious. I drove straight to Gavin's house. He answered the door looking exhausted. Before he could speak, I exploded. I accused him of assaulting my wife, of ruining my family. His wife walked into the hallway halfway through my rant. Confused, she asked what was happening. I shouted that her husband belonged in prison. She stared at Gavin, then at me, then slammed the door. At the time, I thought I had finally opened her eyes. I had no idea I was the only person who didn't know the truth. About 2 months later, Naomi had recovered enough that her doctors considered her stable. That night, after dinner, I finally asked, "What happened that day?" She froze. She didn't pretend she couldn't remember. She didn't blame medication. She just stared at the floor. I felt something inside me break before she even spoke. After several minutes, she whispered, It wasn't an assault. I didn't say anything. She continued crying. Then she admitted everything. She and Gavin had been having an affair. Not for weeks, for almost 11 months. They'd been meeting whenever they could. That afternoon, they had been together in his guest bedroom. According to her, they had just finished having sex when she complained about crushing chest pain. She collapsed within seconds. Gavin called 911 immediately. He stayed with her until the ambulance arrived. He answered every question honestly. He never tried to run. He never lied. He actually saved her life. Meanwhile, I was busy trying to send him to prison. I don't remember much after her confession, just silence. The kind that feels louder than screaming. A few days later, Gavin asked to meet me. Against my better judgment, I agreed. He admitted everything without making excuses. He said the affair should never have happened. He admitted he deserved to lose me as a friend. Then he told me something I wasn't expecting. His wife already knew. Not because of me, because he confessed the night of the heart attack. He said nearly watching Naomi die made him realize how disgusting they'd both become. His wife chose to stay. She believed genuine remorse deserved one chance. I couldn't understand it. Maybe I still don't. As for my own marriage, I couldn't leave immediately. Naomi was still attending cardiac rehabilitation. Her doctors repeatedly warned against severe emotional stress. Part of me was terrified that serving divorce papers too soon would literally kill her. So I waited. Not because I forgave her, because I didn't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if I had contributed to another heart attack. Those months were the loneliest of my life. We lived in the same house, shared meals, attended doctor's appointments, pretended to be normal for our daughter. But emotionally, my wife was already gone. The woman I thought I married had disappeared long before the ambulance arrived. 6 months after her recovery, I filed for divorce. There wasn't a dramatic courtroom battle. No revenge, no shouting. Just paperwork, mediation, and quiet acceptance that some betrayals leave nothing worth saving. Our daughter lives with us equally now, and thankfully she's doing well. As for Gavin, we haven't spoken since the divorce was finalized. I don't hate him any less than I hate what Naomi did. But over time, I've realized something uncomfortable. The man I accused of being a predator was actually the man who called for help fast enough to save my wife's life. That doesn't make him a good person. It doesn't erase the affair, but it does mean I was wrong about the worst accusation I could possibly make. I apologized through a letter. He never responded. I don't blame him. So here's why I'm posting. If someone betrays you in a way that completely destroys your trust, but they also survive something that nearly kills them, is it normal to feel guilty for eventually walking away? Or is guilt just another chain keeping me tied to a marriage that ended the moment my wife collapsed in another man's bed?